Imagine a place hidden deep in the New Mexico desert. A place that looks ordinary on the outside, just a mobile trailer surrounded by the silence of the wilderness. But inside, behind those walls, was a nightmare far worse than anything you've seen in movies or read in books. Chains, whips, surgical tools, and a chilling voice played from a cassette tape. A voice that calmly explained what was about to happen to the terrified woman tied to the bed. This isn't a horror story. It's real. And the man behind it? David Parker Ray. Known to the world as the Toy Box Killer. For years, he abducted women, tortured them in ways too horrific to imagine, and recorded his crimes using audio tapes. What he said in those tapes still haunts investigators and survivors to this day. In today's episode of The Grim Tapes, we dive deep into one of the most disturbing cases in American criminal history. We'll uncover the twisted mind of David Parker Ray, examine the evidence, listen to survivor accounts, and analyze the chilling recordings he left behind. What you're about to hear is real. Disturbingly real. And once you know the truth, you'll never look at an empty trailer in the desert the same way again. Who was David Parker Ray? David Parker Ray was born in 1939 in Belen, New Mexico. From a young age, his life was marked by violence, neglect, and disturbing fantasies. Raised primarily by his grandfather, Ray's exposure to normal emotional development was minimal. His father, who had a criminal background, introduced him to pornography and brutal sexual content during Ray's teenage years, setting the stage for a mind that would soon spiral into darkness. Throughout high school, Ray struggled with bullying and isolation. He became obsessed with sadomasochistic fantasies and began documenting them in journals. Over the years, he collected images, sketches, and writings about torture, abduction, and control. But these weren't just fantasies. They were blueprints. He joined the army and was honorably discharged. Later, he worked as a mechanic and lived a quiet, almost invisible life to the outside world. But inside his mind, the plans were forming. He began building what would later be called the Toy Box. The Toy Box. Behind his property in Elephant Butte, New Mexico, Ray constructed a soundproof trailer. To the average person, it looked like any other utility space. But inside, it was something out of a horror film. It was equipped with bondage devices, surgical instruments, whips and chains, a gynecological chair, electrical stimulation tools, and perhaps most disturbingly, a mirror placed above the bed so victims could be forced to watch. He called it the Toy Box. To him, it was a place of pleasure and control. To his victims, it was hell. But what made it even more horrific was how methodical he was. He recorded tapes, introductory messages, for his victims, explaining in calm, matter-of-fact detail exactly what they would endure. These weren't spontaneous acts of violence. They were rehearsed, calculated, and ritualized. The tapes. One of the most disturbing elements of this case is the existence of the so-called introductory tapes. In these audio recordings, Ray's voice introduces himself to the abducted woman. He explains what is going to happen to her over the coming hours, days, or even weeks. He goes on to describe every gruesome act in graphic detail. The tone is calm, without emotion. Almost like a teacher giving instructions. He talks about conditioning the women, drugging them, and erasing their memories so they can be released later, without even knowing what happened to them. Investigators believe these tapes were real, and that they represent only a fraction of what Ray did. Many of the victims were never identified. Some may not even know they were victims. The accomplices. Ray didn't work alone. His girlfriend, Cindy Hendy, played a major role in luring and assisting in the abductions. She was involved in the drugging, torture, and even the psychological manipulation of victims. There were others too. His own daughter, Jessie Ray, was implicated. Several other women and men were suspected to have participated or helped cover up his crimes. This wasn't the work of a lone madman. It was a network of abuse. Captured by a survivor. In 1999, Ray was finally caught. But not by police. It was one of his victims who escaped and alerted authorities. Cynthia Vigil had been kidnapped, chained, and brutalized inside the toy box. One day, when Ray left the keys to her restraints unattended, she managed to unlock herself and flee. Naked and terrified, she ran to a mobile home and begged for help. When police arrived at Ray's property, they found the toy box, and everything inside it. But what they didn't find was enough physical evidence to tie him to murder. Despite hundreds of items and recordings, bodies were missing. Even though Ray was suspected of killing many women, he was charged mainly for kidnapping and torture. He died of a heart attack in prison shortly after sentencing. Unidentified victims. To this day, authorities believe David Parker Ray may have killed over 60 women. But without bodies or full confessions, most of these cases remain unsolved. In the recordings and photographs found in the toy box, investigators identified numerous women who were never reported missing. Many had no names attached. Authorities have released some of these images in the hopes that families might come forward, but so far, most remain anonymous. It's likely that many victims never came forward due to memory loss, drug-induced amnesia, or sheer trauma. And some may never have had the chance. Why did he do it? What makes a man do this? Psychologists have called Ray a classic sexual sadist. He had an obsession with domination, pain, and control. But it wasn't just sexual, it was psychological. He wanted to break people, erase their identities, and rebuild them as submissive tools. Some argue he was a product of abuse and exposure to violent content at an early age. Others say he was simply evil. A manipulative predator who knew exactly how to avoid detection. He maintained a quiet life outside the toy box. He was polite, helpful, and seemingly normal. But behind that mask was a monster. What we still don't know. Despite his arrest and the tapes found, many questions remain unanswered. How many people helped him? How many women never came forward? Were there other toy boxes we don't know about? Did he kill and dispose of bodies somewhere we haven't found? The FBI continues to look into missing person cases that may be connected. But without new evidence, many of these horrors may never be fully uncovered. The legacy of terror. David Parker Ray left behind a legacy of trauma, fear, and unanswered questions. His tapes are now used in training FBI profilers and criminal psychologists. They are considered some of the most chilling examples of predatory behavior in recorded history. But perhaps the most disturbing part of all is this. He was active for decades. And nobody knew. How many other toy boxes are out there? Hidden in garages, trailers, or basements, behind closed doors. The Toy Box Killer's story isn't just a tale of one man's evil. It's a warning. That monsters don't always look like monsters. That real horror doesn't need a mask. And that sometimes, the person living next door could be hiding something unthinkable. Now that you've heard this horrifying case, let me ask you. Do you think David Parker Ray murdered more than we'll ever know? Why did so many women vanish without a trace in the area? And most disturbingly, could someone like him be doing the same thing right now, somewhere else, and getting away with it? Tell us what you think in the comments below. We read every single one. If this video disturbed you, shocked you, or taught you something new, make sure you like the video. It really helps more people discover these stories. Subscribe to the Grim Tapes and hit the bell icon so you never miss another terrifying case like this, and don't forget to share this video with someone who thinks they know what true crime really means. Because until you've seen the Toy Box Killer's story, you haven't seen anything. Stay safe, stay aware. This is the Grim Tapes. Signing off.